Welcome back to the Early Apex, everyone. I'm Rob here with Dylan, and today we're talking about a little trip that Dylan took up north to Vermont, the northeastern home of rally racing, and basically the only place it's done in the whole of the East. And Vermont Sports Car, which is a company that has built many of the Huna cars and many World Rally cars, etc. They are a mecca for Subaru rally racing and car building. So you had a little tour, I hear.
I did. So I recently got married. And Rob was there, and for our honeymoon, we went up to Vermont. And obviously, being the car guy that I am, the whole excuse of going on this honeymoon was just to do car stuff, right? No, no, but we did.
It's all a trick.
We did. It was all a trick. She signed on. She signed off on.
Poor wife.
But no, it was something that I had found actually many years ago. So I used to live in Vermont. I lived in Burlington for 2 years, and I lived in the Northeast Kingdom for a year. And I didn't know about Vermont Sports Car when I was living there. Rob, if I had, I probably would have never left Vermont.
You're working there right now.
I mean, I would. Maybe I'm still sweeping the floors, but I'd be sweeping the floors there if if they had me. But no, I found out that Vermont Sports Car was a thing because of a series on YouTube that they put on, and they follow a full rally season with Vermont Sports Car and Subaru, and they've done Rallycross on there as well. And of course, the name escapes me at the moment. I'll bring it up here in a moment. But on all these cars, not for the Rallycross, but for the actual rally, they're street legal cars. And on the back, I noticed that there was a Vermont license plate. What the heck is this Vermont license plate doing? It's, for those of you who don't know, Vermont license plate's very distinct. It's extremely simple, and it's just a green plate with Vermont at the bottom. You can't miss it. You can
green
see
plate, white letters.
You can see it from a mile away. So that got me investigating, and I realized that, man, I was living right down the street from Vermont Sports Car, and they're the ones that it seems like they have a partnership with Subaru, and they're doing all of their professional rally builds. Mind you, Subaru stepped away from WRC, right? They're no longer a part of WRC, and Vermont Sports Car is pretty much building all of their professional level rally cars, and they're doing the full rally circuit here in the States. So I look into it knowing that, hey, there's probably a potential that we're going back to Burlington at some point, and they do tours. They do tours on occasion on Fridays. So it was always kind of in the back of my head to, next time I was in Burlington, to go check out Vermont Sports Car. And as you can tell by the hat, it was a great trip.
You got your swag,
I got my swag.
Now everyone knows you went.
Absolutely. Knows that I'm a fan. And so we go on our honeymoon. Shout out to Stefan for letting us borrow his Miata, which was fantastic. Got to drive that all around. We'll probably have a discussion at some point about the NC that I got to borrow and what my take is on that. Launch Control, that's what it is. So for those of you that haven't seen, Launch Control is like the series that Subaru does. It's on Subaru's channel, but like a lot of the people that work on these cars are there. And funny enough, so Sierra and I, we're having it's the middle of the week. We're, doing our honeymoon thing. And honestly, we were kind of whipped from everything that took place with the wedding and stuff. So we didn't go on a Friday. There was a number to call to see if they were doing tours, and nobody answered. So I'm like, let's just stop by. Let's just go swing by and see what's up. I have no idea what this place is like. And we get there, and dude, they have this whole showroom. They have a billet engine on a block. There's old rallycross cars just sitting there. And this is not the tour, mind you. This is just, you walk in.
This is just the front office.
They greet you, and you go around the corner, and there's probably this $10,000 sim rig sitting there. And Seth shout out to Seth. He showed us around, and I knew Seth from the series. It was really crazy.
Yeah, a little meet the stars, you know?
Yeah, he's definitely been a big part of launch control, and it was just really cool. He'd been with Vermont Sports Car for going on 10 years. He actually just did a post about hitting his 10-year anniversary. And dude, we were there for probably like half an hour, 45 minutes, just talking with him and another guy. And I got to sit not sit, but I got to like touch these rally cars. Dude, they're all carbon fiber. And not only that, but right in the gallery, like right when you walk in, there's a 22B sitting right there. I know you've seen one before.
Yeah.
But for me, that was a bucket list car that I did. I mean, there's 400 and something built.
It's pretty crazy that they would just have one in the shop there.
Just sit in the shop.
Yeah.
Just sitting in the shop.
Hanging out there.
Yeah. And it was so good that like Sierra and I were like, we got to come back. So we put our name down for doing a tour. And dude, we like walked what felt like every inch of that place. So that was just like us going there, stopping by. They're just, they greet you at the door. You walk in and you can do all this other stuff. So with the tour, fast forward to the end of the week, we get to do a whole tour with a group of people. Mind you, when you walk in...
So you went back.
We went back. So we went back a second time. Because when you walk in, you actually have this fully glass wall that overlooks where they do the majority of their assembly down below.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Dude, and when I saw... Dude, I'm sitting there. I'm looking down. I'm seeing the family Huckster, bro. I'm seeing the family Huckster, like right,
shit.
50 feet away from me down below is this car that I've seen probably hours at this point of footage on YouTube. It's gone all around the world. It's done a Gymkhana with Travis Pastrana.
Right. It's royalty.
What, $2 million
it's
car
automotive royalty
is down there, and they're saying, yeah, when you come back on Friday, we'll take you down there. So I'm like, and Sierra was on board. So shout out to my now wife, who was just not as interested as me, obviously, but who was interested in coming back. So I definitely got a good one here. But yes, we went back. We had a group of people. We had to keep our phones in our pocket. Okay. You take photos of the other stuff. So you take photos of the build engine. But
they're building the race cars like there on the floor, like while you're there.
So this is a massive warehouse. They've broken it down to a bunch of buildings, but they have everything from an assembly area to an engine department to fabrication to paint to composite, where they're doing all their carbon fiber layups. And yeah, like they had, I forgot how many parts in their parts department, how many hundreds of thousands of parts they had on hand, but it's this whole like infrastructure in this massive building. There's 18 wheelers that they have large enough space to like keep everything inside. So we actually got to see the family Huckster on Friday getting loaded up to this double decker 18 wheeler. So it's like on top.
Oh, wow.
Like, 20 feet up on the top part of this double decker, and down below they're loading more stuff. So dude, we got to walk the whole thing. And the only thing that I could think of, aside from like nerding out about just being surrounded by all this like sweet rally tech, I'm sure it's just, a tenth or just a small percentage of what F1's like, but that's what was going through my head. There's all this proprietary...
This is real, like, racing development.
This is, yes, exactly.
This is engineering going into
proprietary,
racing.
Yeah, there's a bunch of proprietary, information and tech with the engines. Like, he had been there for 10 years. He made a joke. It's Seth. He's standing in front of the door. He's like, this key card will get you into every door in the entire facility. And then he swipes it, and it goes, biddy, except for this one. They won't let me in to this one room. It's like an engine department, and it's like less about secrets.
That was the engine room. That was the engine building room.
That was the engine building room that he couldn't go in. And it was less about secrets. It was a clean room. So it was like, and everything was under blankets. So we got to look into it. I couldn't really see much, but I saw, a bunch of engine stands with engines and underneath blankets and stuff. But yeah, it's like, this is true money behind car development and racing. Like, even the bumpers, I remember seeing the first grill up close, and realizing that everything is carbon fiber. Just everything on these cars, even they're WRC cars, because there was two very different like types of cars there.
They're making the carbon fiber there.
Yeah.
Like they're making molds, they're laying it up, they're
everything.
Like vacuum
Everything right there.
molding carbon fiber.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Dude, and like I got to hold a test piece. Like I held a door.
Yeah.
I think the door was like 5.5 pounds. It was disorienting.
Cool.
How light it is. That was the best way I could. It's disorienting. I go to pick it up and my hand flies up because I'm expecting. Oh yeah, it's light. It's like 10 pounds, 10, 15
Race
pounds.
Car
No
stuff.
No,
I mean it's just a shell to go around a cage. It's like it's not. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So and I remember like the first time this was in the gallery upstairs, seeing the grill, and the grill looks black from just a few feet away, but you get up close and you realize it's all composite. It's all carbon fiber. So, like I was just saying too, there's two very distinct classes of cars. There's like their rally cars and there's their rally cross cars. Like their rally cars do still have to be somewhat realistic as like a road car. They're road legal. They don't move the engines around. And then I got to hear all about the rallycross cars, and they're moving the engines around. They're pushing them back. They're pushing them down. They're moving the firewall back. They've got all this other stuff going on. And it's just like, I knew that to a certain extent, but then actually seeing it with,
seeing how the whole car's
off,
re-engineered. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And seeing it up close too, one of the cooler cars that we got to see, the whole front end was off. It was all a tube frame up front. I believe it was a rallycross car, and it had like a restrictor on it right in front of the turbo. And the packaging of everything was so tight. It had a half rad. It was one of the first cars besides mine that I've seen, or like a Civic, like an aftermarket half rad that they intentionally did that. So it was half radiator, half intercooler up front. And it was just like incredible, the packaging. And I'm like crawling underneath these cars.
Hey guys, like, I thought of that too. That's
I've got
how
one of those.
I did that.
I've got that on my Miata. You bet that's a race car. Dude, I'm like crawling underneath these cars too. Like there was another Hoonigan car. I don't know. I think it's still classed as like a Hoonigan car. You had the family Huckster, which is the wagon, but you also had the other one that Travis raced and done a bunch of stuff with, spin it over in Goodwood, which is the Air Slayer. So that's like the STI all-out build that they did, and I think that was Travis's like first Gymkhana that he did was with that car. Dude, I closed the doors on that car. I touched that car. I was underneath that car. I was looking at the air that they did underneath it. Like that is just, if you're a car person,
you're like
if
licking
you're really
the
into
seat,
it,
trying to get a little bit of Travis was trying to sweat, right?
Well, actually, at that point, well, yes, Scott Speed actually just raced that car at I think VIR and gotten the record that they were attempting. They were like racing.
Oh, really?
A bunch of other cars. One of which was the NASCAR that went over to do Le Mans 24-hour. Like that NASCAR was at VIR, and they beat the NASCAR.
Well, they
with
just
the
threw
Air
a
Slayer.
bunch of random crazy cars on the track.
Something like that.
Huh.
Something like that.
But that's
yeah.
I mean, that's very fast too. Faster than that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, it was like a meet your hero moment. Getting to know Seth was really cool, especially going there earlier in the week. And yeah, just the facility and what they're doing technology-wise, it's super like motivating to like do more to my Miata in terms of like refinement and motorsport stuff. But more importantly, it's really interesting to like see in person something as simple as like, what's their door like? What's the door like in that car?
Yeah.
On the Air Slayer? What are they doing underneath that car? How does that compare to their WRC car? Because like the WRC car, there was like these plastic pieces of trim that was attached to the suspension, and it was just zip tied to allow like movement of the suspension. Whereas like the Air Slayer it looked like much more rigid underneath there. And highly recommend anyone in Vermont or like traveling through Vermont that's a car person or even just an engineer, or someone that's somewhat enthusiastic about cars, stop at Vermont Sports Car. It's sick. It's really cool, like how much you get to see on that. I think there was over 2 hours that Seth walked us around that whole place. It's really cool.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like being like right there, like being able to touch them and feel them and smell them, you know, to like get a different perspective of like, you know, what we're all used to like seeing in videos and gymkhanas and all that type of stuff. I mean, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. I was finishing some of Seth's sentences with like Bucky. My goodness, they had Bucky's car there. Bucky Lasik. And Bucky used to drive for Subaru in Rallycross. And Bucky was recently on a Smoking Tire episode talking about how Vermont Sports Car gifted him his old race car and how he had plans to, you know, track it and stuff. Well, Bucky's car was there because Bucky had just tracked it. It was off season, and they're like going through his car and shipping it back to him. And I'm like, "Yep, wow. That's Bucky's car. You guys just gave it to him, which is rad." Yeah. And I assume it's here for like servicing. You're gonna send it back to him. He's like, "Yeah, that's what we're doing." It's really cool stuff.
Damn.
So
very cool.
Any questions for me?
All right, so. Yes. What, out of all the cars you saw there, which one do you want to drive?
Oh,
which one do you want to drive the most?
Okay.
They're like, this is part of the tour.
Yeah.
You get to pick one car.
You get to pick one car. Oh my God. Okay. Well, so there were a lot of cars there. Ones that I haven't mentioned. There was like they even had their current like rally car there that's in the championship that they're following along right now in the series. But I mean, it's got to be either the 22B. I don't think it would end up being the 22B, but it would definitely cross my mind. I think it would come down to the Air Slayer because that's just like such an insane car.
Yeah,
like that is like. That's the like Ken's all of Ken's car level, like Gymkhana level, all-wheel drive, all-out build by them. Like,
man, I see why they call it the Air Slayer. It's like just covered in wild like aero accoutrements.
It's so aggressive.
I mean, there's just wings going down the whole side of the thing. I guess that's like all channeling air away from like the wheel wells and like adding downforce up there, but. Man, that is
some
nuts.
Of what's going on too is I think this was part of its design. The Gymkhana that Travis did, the opening shot. If you remember,
is this where he jumps like over that bridge gap?
Yes,
and so they wanted to make the thing literally fly well.
Yes. Like there's a button to actuate that rear wing to ensure that the nose didn't drop in the air when it was going through, because that jump was that big.
Wow.
Like he jumped a giant cigarette boat.
It's a wing. He's literally, it's a wing.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
It's an Air Slayer.
So you're like, all right, let me get the keys. Give me like a 20-foot jump.
Dude, just launching that car and hitting like a 1-2-2-3 shift would be, I'd never be the same.
Be no going back.
No. It was a virgin butt dyno before that, and I would be forever broken after, putzing around and doing just like one launch in that car. It'd be so nuts.
Damn.
What about, what other questions do you have? I know I covered a lot kind of quick. It was a rad experience, I will say.
It sounds pretty incredible. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. Oh, what else? What do you got?
A couple of things. So Colin McRae was in some of their cars, and there is like a really famous X Games, or like an infamous almost, I should say.
Okay.
X Games where Colin came over. He was driving a No Fear, an orange No Fear STI.
Colin competed in the X Games?
Yes.
Like I think it was the first X rally was like after he had retired.
He may have retired by this point, but he came here and raced, and it was Travis, Ken, and him.
Wow.
in the top 3, and he was winning until like one of the last turns.
About like
and he like rolled.
Field.
Yeah, well, he rolls in the competition.
Yeah.
And still gets second to Travis. Ken got third. And they have like his hood from that STI. And they have like a ceiling of hoods. Or no, it's a ceiling of bumpers. Then in like the fab shop, they've got a bunch of hoods and doors. There's all this like really cool stuff. And yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Colin McRae's No Fear bumper. And like, oh yeah, that's like Bucky's bumper from like 2010. Whoa. And like, there's all this like really cool stuff all over the place. It's just, you got to go. We got to go up there. We got to go driving up there and stop one Friday and visit that place together.
That sounds like an excellent summer trip up there.
It was
Hell
awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Damn. Oh man, you got me thinking like, I don't know, just jealous. Just got to get up there and like see it.
I will say that I've been curious about this for a while, but seeing it in person for all the carbon fiber that was in that workshop, I'm really curious to dabble in doing some carbon
to start
fiber of my
messing
own.
with DIY carbon.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first thing that I do, but that plenum, it'd be real cool if that plenum was carbon fiber that I have in my Miata. For those that don't know, I have an ITB Miata, but it's not exposed ITBs. I have a plenum with an intake routing into my front bumper. Yeah, it'd be really cool if that plenum was carbon.
Yeah. Carbon is so cool. And like nowadays, there's like so many resources to make it at home. Like there's guys building mountain bikes at home, which is nuts too, because they're like, I mean, you build a plenum and it fails, it doesn't really matter. Worst case, your engine blows up, but like you haven't died. But like a mountain bike, you're hitting 20-foot drumps and you're putting your life in the hands of this mountain bike that you made yourself out of carbon fiber. So like, a homemade carbon fiber is like getting really
accessible.
Good. Yeah, really accessible and quality. So that would be sweet. I mean, like it must have been really cool to just see like how much they're able to do all in this one factory in America. Like just to do all the different like R&D, like start to finish and manufacture.
Paint shop. I don't know if I mentioned that. They have a paint shop.
Yeah.
And they talked to us about, what the workflow's like. You got somebody out on stage at a rally. Maybe they have a minor shunt. They take out a front bumper, a rear bumper. They bring all that stuff with them, but somebody on the team is like emailing back to headquarters, hey, we went through both our bumpers. We're going to need 2 bumpers, 2 front bumpers, 1 rear bumper, 2 side skirts. That might end up going to the composite team because now their skew is down to, low level, and they got to, hey guys, this next week we're doing bumpers. And they're just going to put together carbon fiber bumpers all week for the rally car that's out being driven by Semenuk in the series right now.
Tons of like flexibility.
Yeah, and they're like that with everything, right? They have a whole shop with tons and tons and tons of stock for the cars that they're building that are out in these series. So really cool,
dude. Hell yeah! Glad you got to experience that.
Yeah, in another way, too, this kind of combined with our hill climb experience that we saw at Pagoda Hill Climb, it's really making me want to go to Mount Washington, which is, I believe they're the record holder. I know Travis held the record at some point. I'm not sure if he still does hold the record in their car, but they're planning on going back to Mount Washington, and that's 2025 in August. I would love to go and, see them and watch what it's like at Mount Washington.
Yeah, 2 years to plan. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Cool. Any other questions before we end here?
I think that
we just got to make that trip happen. I think it's just what it comes down to, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're going.
Right on.
It's settled.
All right, Rob. So it is now time for you to present me with 3 cars for me to F, marry, or kill. And I'm
good
pretty
old
hyped
FMK.
about this. Good old FMK. So let me know what 3 cars I'm going to have to choose between. And yes, I will ponder away the 3 cars you presented with.
It's a good one today, Dylan. We've got some forgotten vehicles.
Okay.
Gems. They're not gems, but I've got some forgotten cars here that are interesting nonetheless. And I got on this because someone new started to work, and she had a Pontiac G8, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool, right?
Okay.
G8s are awesome. Mm-hmm. But her other car, her beater car, was the GXP. So the Pontiac G6 GXP Coupe. That's your first one.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
GXP?
Yeah. It's I forgot that it existed until I saw it in the parking lot, and I was like, is that a body kit? And then I realized, I pulled it up from like the depths of my memory out of some forgotten bank of some car magazine I read when I was 15. Then to go along with this theme of just beleaguered, just something went wrong, with these cars.
I see where we're going.
Next up, we have the 90s Lotus Elan M100. Okay. This is another front-wheel drive little thing. And to finish her off, we've got the Subaru SVX.
Oh,
you remember the SVX?
Buddy.
All right, we got some recognition going on here.
Of course, right. I know that car.
So SVX, of course, is Subaru's like grand touring sports car. Like it was like supposed to be like this luxury sporting car. So it's a coupe. It's got a flat 3.3 liter. Of course, it's all-wheel drive, Subaru fashion, but you could only get this thing in automatic.
Yeah.
You only got the slush box. And the most defining feature of this, and I think why anyone remembers these cars, is it's got the split windows.
Split window.
Like, I don't know, like a Countach, right, had split windows. Like it just looks exotic, even though it's like the worst thing ever. But yeah, only half the window goes down.
Yeah. This was the sign of a true sports car for its time, like exotic. I think the F1, the McLaren F1 had that
a split window. Yeah, it was just like, oh, this car is exotic. It's got a split window, even though it's terrible.
Must be serious with its automatic transmission and split window.
So we got one of these. So then the Lotus Elan M100. It's an interesting car. This was a weird period for Lotus. They've got the Esprit out there, and they haven't created the Elise yet.
Okay.
But they're selling this Elan, and it is a front-engine, front-wheel drive, 2-seater convertible. And they sold a few of them in the U.S., about 600. It's got a 1.6 liter 4 from a Isuzu in classic Lotus fashion, repurposing an engine from another car. And you do get a 5-speed manual.
Okay.
It makes about 160 horsepower. And that's about all I can say about. I mean, that is 100 horsepower per liter actually, from a car from '91. So that says
reasonable.
Something. That's impressive. It's still only a 1.6, but hey. But you have to question, why was Lotus making a 2-door, 2-seater convertible that's front-wheel drive?
Yes.
There's just something wrong about that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the 2008 G6 GXP Coupe from Pontiac. It's got 2 big nostrils on the hood,
Oh, yeah.
sucking in air. It's got a wing on the back. And it is kind of ridiculous. It's a V6, 3.6 liter, 250 horsepower. you get the Hydra-matic 6-speed auto, which I'm sure is horrible.
I think you're right. I'm almost positive you're right.
It's
GM in the 08s or the 2000s. Yeah, I can't imagine that being any good.
It is something else, man. Something else. Okay. So this is what I got for you today. You know, these poor kids. Something just went wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
I was struggling to figure out the theme here at first because you're going all the way from 91 all the way to 08, but I think the common theme that I'm picking up on is the fact that none of these cars know what they're trying to be.
yes.
I'll start with the SVX.
That is a great way to put it, actually. I wasn't thinking exactly that, but that is probably the thing that most closely links them. None of them know what they're trying to be.
No, because I'll start with the SVX, which I know the most.
Yeah.
Right? You've got a coupe made by Subaru. Not many coupes, especially ones that's like in this kind of shape. It definitely looks like a sports car.
I don't know if Subaru ever made another car that was a coupe for coupe's sake. You know, you can get a 2-door Impreza, but it wasn't like a coupe.
Yeah. Yeah. You could get the RS, but the GC chassis code, GC.
Right. In America, you
sedan.
get the 2.5 RS. But yeah, it's not like.
Yeah. I don't think they've, at least not a modern Subaru from like the 90s on, made a specific coupe other than this. But yeah, you have a really sporty looking car. You've got the split windows.
It looks sporty. It looks like it would compete against a 3000 GT.
Absolutely.
Or a Talon TSI.
Absolutely.
Eclipse GSX. Yeah.
And then you look at that interior and the fact that it's automatic, and it's just like, it's like lower than a GT car. Like, this is just almost like going for like a luxury like aesthetic.
Hey, I think it's a GT car. It's like, you know, like this would be a cool thing to like cruise in. It's not going to be slow. It's got that 3.3 liter.
I don't know about that, but that,
I mean, by today's standards, it will be slow. But by the 90s,
that interior paired with the fact that there's a split window, they don't go together. It doesn't know what it wants to be. Like you're telling me, like a full GT car, luxury interior.
You don't find the interior a little bit futuristic and driver focused?
Well, what I'm saying is, and you can't roll down the window all the way. Like the windows don't go down all the way.
It rolls down all the way. It's just you only get to roll half of it down.
Yes, exactly. Like
you get
this little slit of a window in this otherwise luxury interior GT car. Like, it's just doesn't know what it wants to be. I think you could make, and I have seen them modified to look really cool. Yeah. So I think there is potential with this car. But
it would be cool to see one of these with like a STI swap or something like that. But
from the factory, did not know what it wanted to be.
No.
Moving to the Lotus.
Yes.
I have never seen a car, proportions wise, that made you think this is a mid-engine or mid-ship.
It really looks like it's like a little MR2 or something.
It's a little MR2. It's a Spider. It's whatever it is. That engine's the back, and they are hiding it. I don't know how they got that hood line so low up front to fit an engine in there. And it boggles my mind looking at this car.
I may have made a terrible mistake. Give me a moment here. I think I've made a terrible mistake.
Okay,
I mean, we're going to have to redact this entire episode if I've really made this mistake. And what I know about... Have I? Thank God. No, I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't.
Literally, the car is that convincing.
I was looking at I was
it's
like,
that convincing that
there's
you're
no
second-guessing
way.
yourself.
And I'm looking at it. It says it's a transaxle. I'm like, well, a transaxle, that's, you also have a transaxle on a mid-engine car.
No, there it is. I'm looking at it right now. They managed to sneak that in.
It just so wants to be mid-engine. It's like Lotus designed this shape, this concept car.
Yep.
And the higher-ups were like, all right, make it.
Yeah.
Except you got to make it on this front wheel drive platform that's going to cost half as much. And everyone is just like, oh my God.
Just make
Why
it work.
bother? Just kill it now.
Yeah. So I've never seen, like, for me, it's not even just the proportions. I just can't get over how low. It's got the wedge shape, how low that front end is, and there's an engine up there.
Oh, it's turbocharged.
It is turbocharged.
It's turbocharged. That explains why it makes 100 horsepower per liter.
They managed to squeeze a turbo in that front end too somewhere. That's so nuts. And now we move to the car that was being sold when I was graduating high school, and that is that G6 GXP. Dude, I haven't thought of a G6 Pontiac since I was probably in high school. This car came out and I immediately forgot about it, I'm sure. But no, here is like what was their classic, at the time. I would expect this to be a mid-size SUV / coupe. Might even been smaller than a mid-size. But it's just like your classic people mover from Pontiac. And they're like, no. In classic Pontiac fashion, we're going to throw some hideous bodywork on this thing and a weird-ass wing, and it's going to be a sports car or a sporty car. But, again, automatic, front-wheel drive, transverse VC. Like, they really, as opposed to leaning into making this like wannabe like a tuner looking car because of Fast and Furious and like all those those trends at the time with the body kit, they should have leaned into making it more of like a muscle looking coupe. Like they did with the GM did with the Impala, I think.
Okay, yeah, like calling back to
or like the
muscle.
Monte Carlo. Yeah, like the Monte Carlo. That was that a
V6,
or I think that came out with a V8.
Well, they're starting with
that.
like, I mean, the G6 was just like a car they already had in their lineup.
Yeah.
Right? Like that made it was whatever. It was totally
economy
bland.
car.
It was what some people wanted. It's just the idea to turn it into the sports coupe is highly questionable.
Well, and it is questionable in and of itself, but then to do it the way they did it, like at this time, they had the Cobalt SS. Why is this not just a reskinned Cobalt SS with a Pontiac badge on it?
Okay.
Like why not put as opposed to that V6 and the automatic, why did they not just put the 4-cylinder?
Well, they still would have made it hideous.
Well, I'm not saying yes, because it's Pontiac. I'm totally was not down for their design style at the time, but I feel like that would have been a more. We still talk about the Cobalt.
Right.
That would have been now.
Yeah. No,
we would still be talking about the G6 GXP. I totally have not thought about this car for so long.
It's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I love that this article that I sent you, just to show them, for our listeners, we like send an example of the car so like, we can look at it while we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
And I've sent them doing a Motor Trend article. And the entire article just like roasts this car, like, and it was written like when the car was brand new, and the whole article is just destroying it, tearing it apart. Like, what is the point? It's hideous. Like, what are these like? I mean, yeah, it's just there must have been something like seriously wrong in Pontiac to green light this thing,
I just
and push the direction.
Yeah, I just can't get over like the fact that it wasn't a Cobalt. The Saturn, another GM company, did that with the Ion and the Ion Redline. It was just a reskinned Cobalt SS. Pontiac would have saved money and they would have made a more successful car for cheaper if they had just reskinned that car. Maybe not fully reskinned it, but like if they just used that drivetrain in this G6. And then you would have had, as opposed to the twins, dude, the iconic twins, the Cobalt SS and the Ion Redline, you would have had the triplets. The Cobalt SS, the Ion Redline. I almost put the
Ion Redline in this lineup, but I was like, that car is too loved.
The G6 GXP. It would have been the Three Musketeers, dude, of domestic tune your cars. Let's go.
I don't think there's any ions left anyway.
Yeah, I doubt that. I don't think.
All right. Well, now you got to pick.
Okay. Yeah.
Now
so now
you
we
got
gotta
to pick.
Okay. Purely for the top-down driving experience, I'm either driving or I'm either effing or owning the Lotus. Also, for nameplate's sake, it's the coolest nameplate.
That's true. You're in the bar, and what do you drive? Oh, a Lotus.
A Lotus.
A Lotus.
And you know what? When
Can
they
you
see that,
imagine the disappointment on their faces when they see that?
No. There's no. It's not the best looking car. I'll give you that.
It looks better than the GXP.
But they're gonna think that is a rear-wheel drive, rear engine, midship engine, sports car.
Yeah,
they won't realize that it's a front-wheel drive.
They'll be like, "Is
front
that
engine
a Spree? I've never seen one in person."
So you're at least fronting a good game with the Lotus, and top down. Hey, to Miata owners, it's going to be fun with the top down. So I'm not crushing that car. I also am not going to crush the SVX because it's a cool car. It doesn't know what it wants to be, but you could totally make this car really cool with an STI drivetrain. That would be a really rad car with that. I'm not sure if this is a Lego like all the rest of their cars, like Foresters and Prezas. Yeah. You can like mix and match parts super easily. It's probably not the case with this. If it is, I think we would probably see more of those type of swaps rolling around the streets today. But that's a cool car. So yeah, that GXP, purely for the sake of that body kit, that wing, and that poor choice not to use the Cobalt drivetrain, we're smashing that car, and I'm not going to think about it again for another 15 years until our next FMK segment where you bring it up again. So that leaves me to decide which car to drive once and which car to own long term. And now, Rob, unlike you do this from time to time. You're like, oh, well, I'd own the SVX and I just end up modifying it. I try to look at these cars for what they are and not spending another $10,000 and potentially have a divorce with my wife because I'm knee deep in debt to try to make this SVX a cool car. I think
I lost my job because my car broke down. I can't get to work.
Yep. So I think I'm going to own the Lotus. It is still a poser car, but
every day
it's, you know what? Even if it breaks down and it's in the garage most of the time, which it will likely be, I get to say I own a Lotus, which is a little bit of status. And I think over time,
pop-up headlights. Those are pretty cool.
Pop-up headlights. Over time, I think it's going to bring the most joy with the top down. Right? Okay. I think the SVX is a cool car. I'd really honestly be curious to drive one, even outside of this hypothetical. I want to roll the window down and then only have a tiny little slit
and you can
to look out of my GT
out. That's
car.
It.
Dude, just an elbow. I'd have to like reach around the window if I want to get my whole arm out.
Your arm out like this. Get it out there.
So I wanna experience that car. The GXP, I could care less. That probably is dry white toast to drive. It's probably totally pointless. The SVX would at least be interesting to roam around in and drive around in. Yeah. So, what are your choices?
When I was younger, my friend's older brother had a GXP. And
there was nostalgia.
There was just like something about it. Like even then, I knew it wasn't the coolest car, but it was the fastest thing that I had been in. And and he was like 17, so he was just like wheeling it like a madman, just like you do when you're 17, like constantly on the edge of just like destroying your car and killing yourself. And there would be something about owning that GXP every day. Just this like hideous vehicle, looks ridiculous, deserves nothing in this life, and you would just drive the piss out of it everywhere. Like everywhere you went, you'd have nothing to lose. Imagine the power. The fastest car on the road is a Nissan Altima, and that's because they have nothing to lose. And that would be the GXP. But you have 250 horsepower and nothing to lose, you know?
You're not wrong.
And there'd be something special about that experience that I would enjoy.
I like that. So is that the car that you're marrying?
That's what I'm going to marry.
You're walking that down the altar. Okay.
Yeah. And
down the
then
aisle to the altar. Okay.
The SVX, as cool as it looks, I'm sure like as soon as I press the gas pedal, it would just be like the softest, most boring.
You'd be full of disappointment.
Boring thing to drive. Yeah, it would just be like
full
abysmal. I could have just went and drove like a 2000s Taurus and had the same experience. And then, which leaves me with the Elan. And I mean, Lotus made it. They must have done something good with the suspension or something. So like, maybe it'll be like a super fun little like. Maybe it'll be like an old, a Mini Cooper, like a R53 2002 Mini Cooper, like that type of fun short wheelbase, little zippy experience,
Yeah.
And it's a manual, so. That'll be my F. That's my one drive, and I'll crush the SVX.
all the Subaru vape clouds getting pretty angry.
They didn't even
with
exist
you right
back
now.
then.
The
SVX is like pre that whole thing.
That whole thing, yeah. This
is
true.
like before all of that.
Yeah.
The SVX is nuts.
Yeah.
The SVX is before Subaru had like any performance car in America at all. Because I think the 2.5 RS was their foray into anything performance oriented.
Yeah. Well,
and that came out in 97, I think, in America. Something like that.
I think you might be right.
So the SVX is like the first thing they did.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, me too. Radio silence here.
98.
For the 2.5 RS.
You got it. First
gen.
Yeah.
So the SVX is definitely sort of their first sort of
predates it. Yeah.
Performance e-car. It's interesting.
How did they make it? If this was their first performance e-car in America, how did they survive this, Rob? How did they get to where they are today?
The SVX is, I think it was like the RX7, like the FD RX7, where it's like in this way, in that. You know what? I don't know where I'm going with this. Never mind. It's not analogous at all. Yeah, I don't know.
I was trying to grasp at straws there, but it has none of the redeeming qualities of the FD.
No. Yeah, I don't know.
I think the closest thing is the 300.
Well, I think
the Mitsubishi 3000. Sorry, 3000 GT. I think that's the most comparable car that I can think of. That's like this one.
But I'm just kind of thinking like Subaru as a performance brand in America. But I think really it was all rested on their like racing, and like that's where it came from. And America just didn't have rally, so we weren't interested. And then they were like, we started to become a little bit interested, and Mitsubishi gave us the Lancer, and they gave us. Oh no, that car came first. That was first. And then the Lancer. In the States. And then they were like, okay, we'll give you an STI. But
yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think we realized in America that these cars are pretty sweet to drive on the road. I think is what happened.
Dude, that's the perfect street car, is a rally car. It's hopping curbs.
With nothing to lose.
Yeah, give me that 911 Dakar, dude. I'm going to be hopping curbs and yeah, it's going to be sweet.
Dude, sweet segment. Let us know down below what you would have chosen. Would you have crushed the Lotus purely for fronting as a rear-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car?
And for being pretty ugly.
It's definitely a low point for Lotus.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, probably one of their ugliest vehicles, if not the ugliest.
Says the guy that's walking arm in arm down the aisle with it. So
it's about what's on the inside.
Absolutely.
All right, Dylan. So recently at the Tokyo Auto Show, we've seen two interesting concepts. And one of them is the Mazda Iconic SP. And so Mazda already gave us a little taste of this guy last year. And it's super sleek looking thing. People are thinking it's the Miata replacement, maybe an RX-7 replacement, but we've got some more details now. It was there in the flesh at the show, and they released some details about dimensions and weight. About 3,100 pounds. It's like 10-inch longer wheelbase than a Miata, so it's significantly bigger than a Miata, not a Miata. And the powertrain is hybrid, and it has what they say a two-rotor engine, but it implies that it's only for power generation. So it's just a generator for the batteries. And we've heard about this before with another concept that Mazda is bringing to like global markets, the MX-30, which is just uses a single rotary engine as a like basically battery generator to extend range extender. So, yeah, it looks like this is just using a two-rotor, so not to power the car, which is interesting. I mean, I think the whole thing about using a rotary as a power generator is interesting, just because of how unfuel efficient they were, when they were moving the cars. I mean, even the Renesis in the RX-8 is like horrific gas mileage. I think you expect like 15 or 18 in that car. So yeah, but electric motors, 300 or so horsepower. It's interesting. I think, yeah, I don't know. What did you think about it when you saw it?
I will say this. I'm really starting to like recent concept cars in that this is a really good looking car. And not only is it really good looking with its simplicity, it looks like a car, right? Like I don't.
You're saying it looks like something that could be produced.
Exactly. It looks like fairly close to what could actually be a car, a production quality or a production model car of this concept. So I like the fact that like this is not an absolute crazy, weird, strange looking concept car. No, I see the design language that Mazda uses today. It's not all there, but like that rear quarter panel, that's a Miata right there.
Yeah.
That front bumper, that has a lot of the same features as most of the range of Mazda today. But it's a roadster and it's got a nice flared body to it. It's a really attractive looking car. Mazda knows how to make a good looking car these days, and it's not over the top. So
it's definitely a beautiful concept.
Yeah. First impressions there. That's a good looking car.
Absolutely. It really like falls within their design language. And I would say is like, yeah, taking their design language to like that next level of like what a sports car from them could look like. Like, I think really, to me, it looks like the FD, like the modern incarnation of an FD, like those smooth flowing lines with the longer hood. And the way the roof wraps around into the trunk, kind of like as one line.
I mean, the rear trunk, that glass, that screams FD. Like that, it's a similar shape to the FD. Like if they called this the RX-9, I would love it. Not that they have to call it that, but like I see it.
And it has a rotary.
I see it. Yeah. So I am more than lukewarm on this. I'm hopeful for it. I know everyone's probably seeing, EV and kind of downing it and stuff. I mean, it's a concept car. This is where all the OEMs are going right now. So I'm kind of overlooking that. And yeah, I'm just kind of, I'm somewhat hopeful about the car. I think it looks amazing. I think it's a great looking car.
Mazda does say it is designed for customers who desire a car that simply embodies the joy of driving. which is Mazda's ethos on all their cars, their whole lineup. So
It's only a matter of time, Rob, until one of these manufacturers comes out with an EV that's a lot of fun to drive. I don't think they are overlooking the weakness of an EV in its spirit and it's fun to drive. Yes, a Tesla, it's a lot of fun to accelerate in. I've done it. It's incredible. But it's a one-trick pony, right? That's what it does.
yeah,
There's not a driver's car really that's been a success with EV. It's just a matter of when. Is Mazda going to be the first one to really crack the code with this concept? Maybe.
yeah. I mean, I think that I don't think Mazda will be the first to do it, but I think they will be one of the first, if not the first, to kind of do it right in a way that isn't offensive in one way or another. In terms of like disengagement, from the experience, from the driving experience. It is a shame. I think everyone would be really, really excited for this if they were saying like it's a rotary engine. And it's hybrid, but it's like hybrid assist, like a hybrid supercar, right? The engine's always there. It's always being used. You just have the electric motors as power assist and also to increase efficiency, right? And you tune the system so that when the EPA does their little test, it's like, all battery, all electric motor focus, and the thing can pull off a 35 mile per gallon like city,
It's
interesting.
Rating. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because typically supercars, that technology trickles down, right? Historically speaking, and a lot of times the technology in a supercar is from F1, like the KERS system, right? The regenerative braking. Now, we haven't seen that style of hybrid trickle down to the masses yet, and I'm wondering out loud, are manufacturers just going to skip right over that technology and just go full electric or like some other type of technology?
Are you talking about KERS, like regenerative braking?
No, sorry. I'm talking about like what you were talking about, the supercars with the hybrid, but it's an electronic assist.
I mean, all the supercars have that, but
like the LaFerrari and all that stuff. I'm wondering, typically that sort of technology that's on a supercar like that would trickle down to more attainable sports cars, but it hasn't yet. And I'm wondering if they're just going to skip over that type of hybrid setup.
I think it's happening. Like it's happening right now. It's just slow and maybe too slow because, all right, so look at the first string was the 918 Spider and the LaFerrari, right? Like they were hybrid supercars in 13, right? And now, Ferrari made like the SF90 more recently, which is still stupid expensive. But now they have the 296 GTB, which is their entry-level, air quotes, mid-engine supercar for a nice $300K. And that is a hybrid system just like this. So like it is moving down the funnel of supercardom. And, the next Aventador they just announced is the same deal, electric assist V12. So it's happening. The funnel is happening. It's trickling down. I'm just afraid that at the rate we're going, by the time it would reach a car that Mazda could sell to the masses for 45 grand, or like, I guess it'd be about 50, 55, and it would compete with like the Supra. By the time it would get there, I think it's going to be like full EV because legislation and laws will have changed and you won't be allowed to sell the gasoline car. And, maybe the world will swing because right now we're on the full EV only kick. And then I think we're going to have, we've talked about this before, but I think there'll be some resource problems, some electric grid problem, some infrastructure problems. I mean, especially in America, there's places in America where it's just going to be impossible for it to happen, at least with batteries as we know them today. So maybe it'll swing and we'll get a chance to see some cool hybrid cars like that. because I don't think. I think most 90% of the enthusiast community will still be stoked to see that, because everyone also knows an NA rotary makes no torque at all, and they are really inefficient. But we want to hear them, and we want to rev them to 10,000 RPM. So, like, yeah, I think that's the perfect solution for a next-gen RX car, would be to have really cool. A rotor engine that we can all listen to and hopefully shift as well. But we have an extra 200-300 foot-pound of torque from some electric motors.
That's a really good point. I never thought of that with, like, the electric motors covering the flaws of the rotary.
Yeah.
The inherent flaws of the rotary. That's a really cool thought.
I mean, that's how... Yeah, I mean, if you look at the 296... and all the other, electric assist supercars, like that's how they're used, right? I mean, they're all turbo cars now, right? So you can cover up turbo lag.
Yeah, like McLaren calls it turbo fill, I believe is their technical term for the electric motors. They're turbo fill for them. Exactly. And also, like, the electric motors have their own limitations, which is like continuous high output, right? You generate too much heat and too much battery discharge too fast, etc. So, like, it makes sense to have a system where they are going to give you some instantaneous torque in that half second that your turbo hasn't spooled, and then they can wind back down when the turbos take over. And of course, like, it gives you like electric diff opportunities that were otherwise unknown, where every wheel can really be on its. I mean, and Tesla, well, not Tesla sort of does this, other Lucid does this, but like, yeah, every wheel gets its own amount of power applied to it, and there's Ioniq
no loss
5
in that system.
And sounds like it's going to work that way.
It's going to work, yeah. So, like, yeah, those are, I mean, performance-wise, some incredible opportunities. And I feel like Mazda would be the one to implement it in a way that doesn't detract from the drivability.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the first time I drove an NSX, the new NSX, and it just felt like it was like uncanny how the thing drove itself. Like, it pulled you through a corner in a way I'd never felt before, and it was also just kind of like boring, because it just felt like I didn't have to do anything and I could do anything. Like, it felt super safe in the way that driving around an Accord felt, except that you could just go so much faster in this Accord,
Just like ludicrous speed.
Right, but everything was like so safe and predictable, it never hurt you. But it's just like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, speaking of Acura, I'm going to make this transition to Honda. I know we've done a lot of talking about this Mazda concept, but Honda just came out with the Prelude concept. I just sent you the link on Facebook, Rob, to a Car and Driver article. There's a lot.
I did see a little bit about this.
Yeah,
I think I saw the headlines and was equally as disappointed as I was in the Integra, and then turned away.
I think I'm pretty similar to my vibes about the Mazda concept to this Honda concept. We know less about it. Like, there's only speculation about the hybrid setup. There's no information on like the specifics of the powertrain or what the horsepower is going to be or anything like that. I am always a sucker for bringing back a nameplate, so I think it's cool to bring Prelude back. I also think that it's well named. It's not just bringing back the name of Prelude for the sake of bringing back the nameplate, because Prelude was always like the sophisticated, more technologically advanced, like, sports coupe. You had the Civic Si, which was obviously like a sporty, economy car. The Prelude was supposed to be a little bit more sophisticated with this tech. So I think it's spot on for Honda venturing into this two-door coupe hybrid sports car with the Prelude badge. I'm starting to come around to companies creating new badges, because we've done so much nostalgia with nameplates.
Yeah.
But I'm not against the Prelude. I know a lot of people are up in arms about it being EV. It's kind of like the thing to do these days if you're a car enthusiast.
Well, I think also, like, we can bang our pots and wave our pitchforks as much as we
It
want.
doesn't
But
matter.
like,
it doesn't matter.
yeah, the world is moving in that direction, and we can't stop it. We have to accept it.
Here's also why I'm hopeful around this specific concept from Honda. It's been 20 years since Honda came out with the CRZ, which was
I was going to say the CRZ
hatchback.
was sweet.
Yeah, which was a hatchback, like a electric hybrid car before they were mandatory. They tried to make a follow-up to the CRX. I'm not as fond of the CRZ as you are, but I will say this, it's got a cult following. It's allegedly a pretty sporty little fun car, like you're indicating.
Hybrid with a manual transmission.
Imagine Honda building on that of 20 years of tech. I think they could pull it off and make a pretty successful EV sports scooter.
The modern CRZ, if they did it again and they could make it as small as the CRZ was, I would buy it. That would be an awesome little hot hatch. And would be really freaking efficient too. You get that, 50 miles per gallon.
Now, this car doesn't look like it's that small, but if you look in the article that I sent you, there is somebody standing next to it. It's not a big car. It is a coupe. And here's another concept that I like the look of. It's a little more futuristic looking. You've got a very like Prius looking like headlight.
I was going to say it looks like the new Prius, or at least it feels like the new Prius. Also introduced in white and black.
Yeah, the front end, very Prius. The taillights, very Prius too. But I like the new Prius look, so I'm going to be somewhat a sucker for that. But aside from those two features, dude, I love the roofline. The roofline of this car, it's really sleek looking. It's a good looking car for being like a modern concept. Is. I like it. I'm somewhat hopeful for this car overall. I am. I'm not going to be one of the haters like most people are talking about it right now. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not saying that they're going to pull it off, but especially with the CRZ and the history, of Honda, somebody's going to do it, Rob. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's going to make a fun EV.
Hey, Honda still makes the SI only in a manual and the Type R. It would be really cool to see this little thing with the SI's motor and electric assist. And, maybe you could even have all-wheel drive. I don't know. But, you know what? Just give me the 6-speed. Just give me the 6-speed.
It's probably going to be front-wheel drive, but what if they did all that with the electric with a 6-speed? How sick would that be? I think that'd be really cool. And I really do think it matches Prelude quite well. Like what that car was with how sophisticated and advanced the technology was surrounding it.
I would be concerned. I guess that this concept does look small. It looks like it has a shorter wheelbase than the Civic does now. It definitely does because the Civic's kind of grown. But I would be afraid. I'm afraid they would be afraid to make such a car, performance Prelude, because they wouldn't want to take away from their Civic Si Type R sales.
That's for your diehard gas engine. This is for a different segment. This is something a little different. I think they could pull that off. I think somebody could argue that, right?
Yeah, I think a Prelude Si would be quite a nice sweet spot, But I think it would need to have like 300 horsepower. Because it's like you already have the SI that makes 200 with just a gas engine, a 1.5 liter at that too.
It sounds like you're explaining a Prelude Type R.
But I don't think they can make that.
Why not?
I don't know. There was never a Prelude Type R, right?
No, they never did a Type R of the Prelude, I don't believe.
They never had. There was a Prelude SI.
Yes.
Yeah, but there was never a Type R.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's exciting to see. I'm more excited by this than I am the Integra. Because the Integra, is just, we talked about it. It's a fancy Type R.
Yeah. I expect the base Prelude to probably be around 250 horsepower. I would expect something around 200 horsepower from the gas engine. If it is like a true EV.
Well, they'll probably do a copy of the Accord hybrid drivetrain with 200 horse. and then they'll do a performance model with mid to high 200s.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be cool. I don't know if they even have any competitors in the market right now. Like, does anyone make a front wheel drive coupe that's like 35 grand? There's like nothing. It would compete against the BRZ.
Nothing comes to mind immediately.
You know, I mean, they're different drivetrains, but it would be in the same segment as the BRZ. But
it would be a one of one in terms of like that plus an EV.
That's for sure. Yeah. It is interesting to see though. I mean, this car looks like super buildable. I mean, it's got all the little bits that you see from a production car, like unlike the Mazda SP, which we did, it looks realistic, but I still feel like there's probably some things here, like the hood's so low. I don't know if that's going to pass like crash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this looks like a car that's already been going through crash safety tests type deal.
I could see driving by that car as it sits.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be any more
road.
shocked to see the new Prius than I would be to see this on the road.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, what do you guys think? Down below, are we just off our rockers? Are these two fugly looking, ridiculous electric cars that are clearly going to be flops?
No one's going to say they look bad, but I don't know. Are we all just what do you guys think about hybrids? Are we okay? Like, are we going to be okay?
Yeah, I will say this overall. I know I've said, I'm mostly positive about it. I'm not like chomping at the bit for an EV sporty car, but I am chomping at the bit for someone to succeed. I want to see that happen.
Yeah.
And it's not so much because of like, the morality. No, I just think
all you have to wait for is the Ioniq 5N, baby.
Well, the thing that I'm most interested in is just the qualities that an EV system brings with like that electric power that's down low and then complemented with a gas engine in a car that I could have potentially afford, just like all those supercars. Like, what does that look like? Succeeding, what does that look like? It'll be curious to see how that plays out. Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks,
yet
guys.
Another episode.
And hope you enjoy it. Check us out. Check out the YouTube. We always add a little bit more in there if you're just listening audio wise. Some little entertainment there. Some little visuals, some photos from
B-roll.
From Dylan's honeymoon in Vermont. So check it out. And check out our Instagram because we're trying to post more reels, more little clips and little doodads for you guys. So
yes, we're doing stuff and shorts from these videos, but we're also trying to do some other like cinematic stuff on adventures that you and I go out and drive on. So go check it out. Thanks for listening.
All right, guys, till next time.
See you.